Hi guys, welcome back to another lesson. Today is a very basic, fundamental 5 things that I think every guitar player should learn as they are beginning. They are very simple, they are very easy, but they will make your guitar playing more fun, more comfortable, and your progress will be better for it. Number 1 is how you hold your guitar. Now that may seem to be a simple thing, but you either sit it on your left leg or your right leg. So if you sit it on your left leg, assuming you're a right-handed guitar player, obviously if you're left-handed, swap this whole thing around in terminology. But if you're right-handed and you sit your guitar on your left leg, it's kind of like putting the waist or the bottom of your guitar in between your legs. That can be comfortable for some people. It's the way classical guitar players are taught to hold their guitars. It's quite comfortable, it keeps it up high. The other way, of course, is to put it on your other leg. Now, that's the more traditional way. There's no right or wrong, it's whatever feels comfortable to you. People will tell you that there is a right and a wrong way to hold your guitar, but really you put the guitar where you feel most comfortable because you're going to be the one playing it. There is also a temptation to tilt your guitar back so you can see what your hands are doing. But as you do that, although you can see better what your fingers are doing, you have to reach your fingers further around the neck in order to get to where they're going. So do it to start with, do it to figure out where your fingers need to go, but before you strum anything, sit it back down so the flat edge of your guitar sits flat on your leg. All right? And every time you find yourself doing that, make sure you come back to there to sit it down properly before you start strumming. That's number 1. Number 2 is a biggie. It's tuning. You've got to know how your guitar is tuned. And I don't just mean learning the names of the strings, E, A, D, G, B, E, and figuring out how to use an electronic tuner. That's a no-brainer. But there's going to come a day where you don't have your tuner. Your battery runs flat. For whatever reason, you can't use an electronic tuner. So you need to understand the relationship between your strings and how to tune it manually. Basically, it's this. The guitar is tuned across in fourths, except for one exception, and we'll get to that in a minute. What that means is that a fourth is an interval of 5 frets, right? Don't worry if you don't kind of grasp what I'm talking about here, but if you go up 5 frets on your E string, the note you get to on the 5th fret is an A. That is the next string. So that A string should be exactly the same as your note on the E string 5th fret. And if it's not, you need to change your A string up or down to make it in tune. So start with your E string, tune it to a piano, tune it to another guitar, don't tune it. If you don't tune it to anything else, it may not be perfectly in 440 tune, but you will be able to tune all your other strings to that string. And that's what's important because you will sound in tune by yourself. If you want to play with someone else, you've got to make sure you're in tune to their E string as well. Once you get your E string in tune, then go up to the 5th fret, play the note, and then play the A string along with it so you can hear both those notes at once. And you'll be able to tell, if you listen carefully, whether the A string is too sharp or too flat or just right. Adjust accordingly. Once it's perfect, you go to the next string and you do the same. If you go up to the 5th fret on the A string, that's a D. So it's got to be the same as your D string. Well, the D string has to be the same as that note. So you play those 2 notes together and then you adjust the D string accordingly. Do it again on the 5th fret of the D string, that's a G. Play your G string, adjust it accordingly. Here's where the tricky part is. When you go to your G string, go up to the 4th fret and play a B note. Make sure your B string is the same as that note on the 4th fret of the G string. Back to the 5th fret on the B string, that's an E. So tune your open E string off that. That is the manual, old school way to tune your guitar, and everyone should know how to do that because, as I said earlier, one day you're going to be without a tuner. But also, it gives you a very good idea of the relationship between these strings. As I said, if you go up 5 frets, you get to what's called a perfect fourth. So the A is the 4th of E, the D is the 4th of A, and so on. The B is actually the 3rd of G, so that interval between the G and the B strings is a major third. all the other, or 4 frets, and all the other intervals between the E and the A, between the A and the D, between the D and the G, and between the B and the E, they are all 5 frets, or a perfect fourth. When you know that, you get a better sense of the strings' relationships to each other. And you can do things like go up and find the D here, play it there, and play it there. You've got 3 positions to play that D on the last 3 strings. When you understand the relationship between those strings, or the intervals between those strings, a lot of things make a lot more sense as you're going forward. Another thing that you need to understand is when you get to the 12th fret, everything starts again. So if we went up 5 frets and got to a 4th, if we kept going up to the 12th fret, we'd get back to an E. We'd go E, F, F sharp G, G sharp A sharp B, C, C sharp D, D sharp E. That 12th fret is where it all starts again. So usually you don't need to worry about learning any other patterns or anything here above the 12th fret, learning any other notes, because it's all the same as it is down here in the open position. The reason why that happens is because the 12th fret is the exact midway point between your bridge and your saddle. So the 2 points where your guitar, or where your string leaves the guitar body and then joins up with the guitar body again, that vibrating length of string, the exact halfway point is above the 12th fret, or it should be. If it's not, your guitar's not going to sound very good. That halfway point, if you fret at that halfway point, you're halving the length of the string. And when you halve the length of a string, you double its frequency. And when you double its frequency, it goes up 1 octave. That's physics. You don't need to memorize that, but you need to know what the 12th fret is, what it means. On a classical guitar, the 12th fret is in line with the actual curve of the body of the guitar. So it's very easy to find on a classical guitar, even if you don't have fret markers. With acoustic guitars and electric guitars, it's different, and it's usually marked with a double dot up on the top of the neck. Once you've got those things, then the last couple of things that people need to learn when they are starting guitar is joining up some notes. So you've learned E, A, D, G, B, E as your open strings. We need to join those up to include all the other natural notes, which are all the other notes that aren't sharps or flats. So from E, you can go up to F on the 1st fret, G on the 3rd fret, and then the next note after G is A, which would be on the 5th fret, like we said before, but that 5th fret, as we now know, is the open A string. So you go E, F, G, A, open A string, B, C, next note will be D on the 5th fret, play it on the open D string, A, B, C, D, go up to E, F, G on the next open string, A, and instead of going up to B on the 4th fret, we go over to the open B, C, D, open E string, F, G. So now you've got all those natural notes that you can actually start using to practice your fingering, to practice your picking or your finger picking. If you're using a pick, practice your alternating picking. So you're going down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, and so forth. If you're playing with your fingers, practice dampening the other strings so that the only string that vibrates and the only string you hear is the one you're picking. It's a very subtle art, but it's also a very, very useful one. And if you start early, you'll get really good at it before very long at all. When you've done that, you've learnt your first major scale, because that is the C major scale. We just started down here on the E and went up to the G, but it's the C major scale, because the C major scale is the only major scale that doesn't have sharps or flats in it, so therefore that is the C major scale. It's also the A minor scale, because A minor is the relative minor of C major. Don't worry about remembering that just yet. If this is your first guitar lesson and you think, wow, this is too much information, just play those notes and you will start to hear the C major scale within that. Or you'll start to hear a major scale pattern. You'll hear that. And And that is good for your ear, as well as being good for your playing, as well as being a good start to your musical knowledge. So thanks for watching. I hope that you find those little tips easy. I hope that you're already doing them, to be honest. But if you're not, get stuck into them. They won't take you long, and they'll set you up moving forward. Thanks for watching. See you next time.